You're listening to Wandering Jews with Josh and Roy. I'm Roy.
And I'm Josh. This is the podcast where two youngish Jewish dads get baked and wonder what it means to be a Jew today.
On this episode 78, we get ripped from the headlines. Then, a new segment, Hot Takes. After that, we rip out the old bracket machine and take ourselves through a token bracket, and also dig up the old random number generator for a twist. And lastly, we'll wrap things up with pro tips.
Pro tips. But before we do any of that, we want to say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters out there. You guys do so much for the show, and we couldn't be prouder of you. So thank you guys so much. And if you want me to be proud of you too, become a token supporter today. Only $1 a month gets you access to the vault, all of our back episodes, and it helps grow the Wandering Jews community. So join today.
Where else are you going to get to make somebody proud for $1? Let's tell the folks at home what we're smoking. Can I tell them? Can I tell them? Can I tell them?
Sure.
Well, so Josh and I went to the dispensary together the other day, a lunch break trip, and there was a strain that the bud tender recommended when he heard we wanted to host an episode and be chatty. He went straight to the strain. Did he not? He went straight to the strain.
This was the first thing he mentioned as soon as we said podcast.
And the strain name is Moose and Lobsta. Not Moose and Lobster, Moose and Lobsta with an A.
Do you think it means that's an East Coast strain because the lobster is a East Coast expression?
Well, you know, the moose is not necessarily found in great numbers in Oregon either. I mean, this is definitely, not from our neck of the woods. But what's interesting is if you look at the strains that are crossed for this particular strain, it lists it as Kali, Snapple, and Oregon Huckleberry. And it's like, you can't get more Oregon than Huckleberry. So what's going on? Is it Huckleberry? Is it Moose? Is it Lobster? What does the internet have to say about this crazy strain?
Moose and Lobsta is a 70% sativa-dominant hybrid that produces heavy yields of high-potency flowers in about 9 to 10 weeks. It smells strongly of skunk and tropical fruit and has a similar taste of undertones of diesel fuel. Moose and Lobsta provides a very intense high that starts in the head and quickly spreads through the body and limbs and can be beneficial in treating pain, anxiety, depression, and loss of appetite.
Oh, that's definitely not one I've ever struggled with. But I appreciate that it works at that level as well. I was wondering in that description, it was talking about, the body and the limbs. And I'm like, is there a strain that only affects your core? It does not, my legs and arms are totally sober, but my trunk is high as fuck.
This is one of these packages that I have a hard time opening up. It's a pre-roll that we're smoking. It tested at 22.34% THC and 0.09% CBD with a total terpenes of 3.9%. But I have a hard time opening these because you have to find the exact right spot and it only opens there. You have to do a lot of twisting.
This comes to us from Deep Creek Gardens in Oregon, and it is packed in a Josh safe canister. So Josh, if this was a video version, we could all just watch you struggle like a kitty cat trying to open a Tupperware.
Well, I did get it open. I got it open. And it is a nice looking J. It's not a full gram. It's only 0.7. So it's sort of like the perfect size for this podcast.
Yeah, I appreciated the bud tender selling me on how it wasn't a full joint. Tell me more about how you're selling me less. I'm intrigued by this notion. Now I can't get it open. I had it open yesterday. God damn it. I jinxed it by talking about you. Oh, God, it smells amazing. There's no pop because of the twist top, but it is a beautiful looking joint. It's got that really clear paper. You can see the flower through. And the way that the bud tender sold it to us, it's not a gram, but it's a good joint, is that this place apparently uses top shelf, high quality flower that they break down for the joints. It's not just sort of the shake that's left over from when you're selling the nugs. That's what he says, but I'm just repeating his sales pitch now.
Well, I'll be the judge of that.
And I'll be the jury.
So let's spark these up and be right back. Roy.
Roy's not here. Please leave a message.
message.
Moose and Lobster is very, very quick hitting.
This bud tender was not kidding. This is a very impressive strain. 22% THC, which, just to further my point on this, because I'll never miss an opportunity, is not that powerful number in today's market.
Yeah, no, there's other factors in play, that's for sure.
It is. It's beautiful. This is a very beautiful strain.
Yeah.
Slow clap over here. A non-ironic slow clap. An earnest clap. Gosh, like I just remembered we're doing a show. We should probably get to some segments, but it's just like I just want to say this is a hell of a strain so far.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of like taking it all in and so baked. We just like don't want to do anything and just want to like be here in the boiling pot around you that you are swimming in right now. You don't realize you're being cooked, but you are definitely being deep fried.
I'm thinking about the environment where the moose is running wild and the lobster is swimming free, and that kind of great northern Yukon kind of country, lumberjacks and big trees and running waters.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going with this strain. To the Yukon.
Well, let's get to some headlines.
Rip from the headlines.
The first headline comes from courthousenews.com, and the headline is Minnesota legalizes low-dose pot edibles to the surprise of GOP legislator. So they're trying to legalize just the edibles because of all this, like the Delta 8 stuff they wanted to sort of get a handle on. And so in that legislation, it allowed for just the low-dose edibles. And this guy voted the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's like, legalization happened first through the ballot and then through the legislature and then by accident.
The thing I don't understand is like, isn't it better to just not admit that you're a moron and like don't know how to do your job? If he's basically saying he didn't know what was in the bill when he voted for it, you're pretty bad at your job. Isn't it better to just say, you know what, actually in this case, I thought it was the right call, or I have a bigger plan. I'm a master, I'm giving him this so I can take this. Like he could have spun this, but instead he like admitted that he was a moron.
He did. And he's trying to get them like, take it back. And they're like, no backsies. That's what's happening for real in the government in Minnesota right now. But in the meantime, all of a sudden, like everyone is trying to figure out how to sell this stuff and people are just eagerly buying it up. So it's just like in Minnesota right now, there's like a fucking edible dash,
Mm-hmm.
Which is going to be great for people who are stocking up for the winter because you got to stay inside the whole winter.
That's true.
You might as well be cozy.
The next headline, Roy, is from the JTA, and the headline is New York jeweler reports precious Torah stolen at Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas. And this is terrible. Someone stole a Torah out of like a conference room because the guy brings the Torah to the jewelry conventions so he can do services. Right.
And then the thief is trying to turn around and sell it off. It's like, Who do you think buys Torah, man? The people who you stole them from. It's not a big market. I don't know that there's a big sort of non-Jewish market for Torah scrolls.
Do you think the guy's going to take it to the pawn shop there on Pawn Stars and like try to pawn it off?
That would be such an amazing sketch. Oh my God. Guy pawning off a Torah in a pawn shop. All we need now is the location of the pawn shop. Is it a Vegas pawn shop? Because that's where it has to be. The other wild thing about this story is it was a Torah that was commissioned by this family to be used as a family Torah. And that notion of commissioning a Torah is like so fascinating to me because it is a lot of money because Torahs are written by hand, and by sophers, by scribes, and they do one letter at a time. And like, if they make a single mistake at all, they have to junk it and start over. It's like incredibly meticulous work.
Right.
And all the scrolls and sewing the pages together. And it's like a lot of work. Mm-hmm. So these things are, aside from the fact it's also, the word of God, etc. But it is also a very valuable item.
There's one thing that caught my eye in the story about the family. And they're talking about the family. And it says that the Torah is used in the family celebrations his children's names are written in it. What does that mean? Does that mean there's like a dedication panel like on the front of the Torah?
What? What do you mean his children's names are written in it?
I'm telling you, in the article, it says he added that the Torah has been at all of his family's celebrations and that his children's names are written in it, as well as their husbands and wives.
That's bizarre. It's just like fucking product placement, you know? It's just like product integration, name sponsorships showing up in the Torah.
Yeah.
Just major characters, all of a sudden storylines are just kind of rewritten a little bit.
My synagogue had they've gotten a new Torah. They make it into a big deal. They bring everybody in. And so it's nice to have a family Torah. Maybe I should get one.
Maybe you should. That would be kind of a baller move. I don't know anybody that has a family Torah that I know of, but that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
If your family has a family Torah, hit us up. Twitter @JewsWondering with an O.
The next headline is from the Willamette Week, and the headline is, U.S. Senator Ron Wyden says he hopes for cannabis banking reform bill before August congressional recess. And this is a good thing if they can do it.
Wyden's the real deal. You know, I've been a Ron Wyden fan for like a long, long time. I think I saw him speak when I was in college, and he was still like a congressman. He was still Representative Wyden before he got elected to the Senate. He's always just like on the forward edge, on the right side of things. I much appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, this would be a huge deal if this happened. Cannabis banking reform would change the cannabis economy in dramatic ways. Not to mention it would make it a lot safer for people who are fucking walking around with duffel bags full of cash. It's like dangerous. You know, that's dangerous shit. You're walking around with $200,000 in a bag, literally $200,000 in cash in a duffel bag to go pay your taxes. Like, are you not a target? So then do you not have to have people around you with guns, which makes the increase, you know, it's like fucking craziness. Let these people have bank accounts. Fucking get over it. We won. Moving on. Let's get the federal legalization. Get the banking done first. I think, by the way, when federal legalization happens, let's see how strong the states' rights people are when it comes to that issue. People with states' rights arguments tend to be real selective about which states' rights they're talking about. Regulate my gun? Never. Regulate your ovaries? 100%. So I'm just saying. This strain is crazy. It's a different kind of high. It's a much fuller spectrum high. Do you know what I mean?
What does that mean to you?
I'm feeling it like all over my everywhere.
I am feeling full spectrum as well, but I don't know. Some spectrums aren't meant to be turned on all the time.
It's very bright. I feel like I need to turn all the lights off.
Everyone who's listening to this needs to just turn down the lights.
Yeah, turn down. Unless you're driving, keep your headlights on.
That's why I'm looking forward to the cannabis banking reform, is that when banks get more like how the dispensaries look, like darker and like, with the green little lamps, the accountant lamps on the tables, where you can't really see anything. And maybe they're holding a gun. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't even be able to see it because it's so dark in there. But it's all mahogany and it looks nice. When they do this cannabis banking reform bill, that's what because there's going to be cannabis banks.
Oh my God. That was the longest way you could have gotten there.
Gotten where? I'm not even there yet.
Oh shit. Where are you going? So you walk in and it's a bank, but just for cannabis?
No, but just it's designed like the cannabis stores are designed. The bank is.
Oh, yeah. You just kind of walk in and it's a counter.
You walk in and all the money is just under glass under the table. $20. Look at this. It's all under the glass. So it's just more interactional. You want these. Look, I got these 20s over here. Honestly, sometimes I feel more secure in those dispensaries than I do in a bank because there's way more cameras. There's more security. They're checking my ID when I walk in. I mean, like,
for real.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Cannabis banks.
Oh, the next headline is from MJ Biz Daily. And the headline is, Inaccurate Strain Names, Poor Labeling Hinder Marijuana Industry, Study Shows. And this is what we've been talking about for 78 episodes.
Oh, this is from the Institute of No Shit.
And they're basically finding that strains in Colorado and then that are supposed to be the same here in Oregon, they're totally different. They test differently. Like There's no standardization whatsoever, and it's hurting the industry.
This is like the elephant in the room made out of elephants.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big this elephant is.
Yeah.
There are all these growers crossing all these strains, based just sort of word of mouth that this strain of this, and this is a descendant of that, and this is a mother of that, and this is a new cross and it's proprietary, and I'm going to call it a new name that has nothing to do with any of the taxonomy of the other names. So if you don't have that connection, it's just another word that means absolutely nothing. Walking into a dispensary is walking into like a Mad Lib. It's just a bunch of words. They're just hoping that it sounds good to you. It's like if you went to a restaurant and it's like, just whatever sounds good to you.
The study also found that like indica, sativa, like that is all nonsense, and that all the weed is basically a hybrid. That there are all these other sort of factors and cannabinoids that we could be tracking on that sort of would sort of give it a more deeper profile. And they suggest like using QR codes to like give people that information so that they could be like, I'm really into this one thing over here, and that kind of thing.
This sets up our new segment within a segment. It's not going to work, man.
That's a great segment. Yeah, this isn't going to work.
It's not going to work because the fucking things you're trying to manage, label, regulate are living creatures, all totally different. Some even like one nug to another on the same plant. It's just a wildly variant and amazing species and creature that like we get to interact with. And that doesn't even begin to touch the fact that it is completely subjective to every user who is going to have a different experience with it. It is not the same as alcohol, which affects everybody the same way. Certain alcohols in certain ways and certain paces and certain sort of, metabolism rates. And like, what a beer is going to do always. You may not know what you decide to do when you're drunk, but it's going to like make you buzz and then eventually make you drunk. Like you don't get that kind of guarantee with any kind of weed. Like, unless you grow it yourself because you knew that this was the weed you enjoyed and you just control it yourself. And even then, the plant is going to have variances within its own structure.
But isn't there a way to, like, if a certain chemical compound makes you feel paranoid, but maybe it won't make me feel paranoid, but that's sort of, or whatever sort of, or making you feel a certain way, if that can be sort of measured, just that one compound separately, and you would like to know, like, oh, I don't want anything with that.
That would be much more useful. It would be more like a sort of a naturopathic pharmacy kind of structure. Like, I need something for sort of seasonal depression. I need something for anxiety. I need something to help me with like stress. Yeah. I need something to help me with my appetite. Okay, great. Well, we recommend this, and this product. And that's what they do. And the strains that are inside those, maybe it's in the description. Maybe the people choose to describe it. Maybe they don't.
Like, what if each one of these chemical compounds had a color associated to it? And so then at the end, I like weeds that are kind of like a pinkish color, because that's kind of like, the kind of the stuff I'm into. But like, you might be into more of a purpley color. And like, then you go into the dispensary, it looks like a rainbow.
Did you see Brave New World?
No.
I think it was an Amazon series. I'm not sure. Called Brave New World, based on the Aldous Huxley book. Mm-hmm. But like, it's in the future where like, people are just sort of dosed different colors throughout the day. It's like exactly what you're describing. I think his version was sort of a state-controlled, nefarious version.
What if cannabis becomes the gateway drug to state-controlled medication?
You are Q. I bet people don't know that Josh is Q. Because Josh keeps a pretty low profile. He drives kind of an older car. He doesn't look like who you think Q would look like. But there he sits, high on Moose and Lobsta.
The next headline, Roy, is from thedelish.com, and the headline is, "Here comes the bride, and she's a little stoned. Cannabis weddings are budding industry for chefs and entrepreneurs."
Props on the headline. Respect game when you see it. It's pretty funny.
So there's like a lot of businesses out there who like do cannabis events. And so people are incorporating, just as you would have an open bar at a wedding, like having a cannabis bartender,
I love it. Sign me up.
What would you do so let's say you were in charge of the cannabis at a wedding. Tell me what your setup would look like, because I've been thinking a lot about this.
Well, you'd have to have a few different options for consumption. It's a topic we'll get into later in this episode. I could see certain weddings, people wanting to have like dab rigs, dab stations, especially down in California. Fucking people be dabbing all over the place. Up here too, there's plenty of dabbing happening. So I could see that, but it's a little intense because you want people to like be able to like dance and like enjoy the party and be part of the celebration and not just be like slumped in their chair, sort of just kind of mildly drooling. I would do like a joint station where I would have like very small joints and maybe a little area behind outdoors to where you could smoke. I would have maybe some candies, like some cannabis lollipops or something, different flavors. So some edibles for sure. Probably some good cannabis infused foods, little snacks.
Okay.
You know, high end brownies and cookies and so forth. You want to set that up at like the beginning of the wedding, you know? You want people like eating those when they get there. And then they sit down and then there's a ceremony and then it kind of hits right when their ceremony is wrapping up and the party's about to start. And then everybody's feeling good. And then the music starts. This is my next career right here. Marijuana wedding planner. I didn't know it was just a natural gift I have. I don't know. How would you set it up?
First, I would talk to each individual couple, right? And sort of try to get their buy-in, even though I wouldn't really listen to anything they say. But what I would do is I would get their pipes, like their smoking instruments. So then I would procure 5 strains probably that are very different from each other. I would do deep dives in them. And then I would also buy individual little plastic sort of covers so that people like I had all these plastic covers. So I would give you one. And so then we would smoke out of the pipes that are from the couple. So there would be some sort of meeting and there would be sort of connection, right? And then I would sort of, try to sell them on a specific kind of weed based on what they want or based on what I think they need. And then
based on either what they want or fuck them, what I think they want.
And then what we would do is they would each be able to use their own plastic thingamabobber to all smoke from the same sort of flower together. And it would be very curated. And I think people would really like it.
Well, so which planner are you going to choose? You're going to choose A, you're going to choose B, y'all, to vote for Roy.
No. Press 1 now.
Beep. No, man, I think this is awesome. Like I'm a little jealous. The wedding that I was once in was fun, but it would have been a whole lot funner with weed. People had like brought weed, but it was back in the Prohibition days and it was in Maryland and they be square over there. Really square. Yeah. So square, they wear khakis on the weekends. They wear khakis like by choice, not just because their boss says you have to wear khakis to work. That one thing was like such a mind bender for me when I moved to DC after grad school. I finished grad school and I moved to Washington, DC. And like that whole like khakis on the weekend, like polo shirts and pop collars, it's like a real thing.
Yeah.
Having grown up in Southern California where like if you dress like that, it was only to be ironic because otherwise you were probably a skater and your khakis were like 10 times too big and they were held up by like a cord belt. Different times, different places, different spaces, different folks, different strokes. Our next headline.
Roy, this headline I was so glad to find, and this is from the Jewish Journal. And this is the marketplace. And this is the classified ads of the Jewish Journal.
I saw that you put this in the thing, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe he had a mini stroke, and he just like kind of dropped a sort of random fucking link to like my deceased grandparents' online classified ads. This is what you wanted to talk about: is the actual ads themselves.
Correct, because they are all cemetery plot ads. So they are all people who've purchased cemetery plots and are trying to, sell them like cars, or property, I guess. So I thought this was very interesting. And they're all under market, because the cemetery will charge $36,000, but they're only asking $32,000. So that's very interesting because
that's so much money.
They advertise sold out locations. So it's all sort of locations within the cemetery. It gets very, very detailed. So this one here is in Hollywood Hills. It's a double-decker plot, right? So it's one plot for 2 caskets. Sold out location. This first one, the one that's $31,000, it's a companion plot stacked, but then a double plot up down is only $21,000, but that's also not in the Hollywood Hills. That's in Simi Valley, but it's in a sold out section in the Plains of Abraham section. Okay.
In the Plains of Abraham section.
is in the LA Gardens of Ramah section. Okay. And then the next one is in Hollywood. It's 2 side by side plots in a sold out section of Moses. And it's only 18,000.
Really? A bargain
Yeah.
for Moses.
This last one here is 1 plot, and it's in Hillside, and it's in the Court of Judges section downstairs. That's 9,500.
Oh man, now we're talking.
It's downstairs.
It's downstairs? What do you mean it's downstairs?
I don't know.
What does that fucking mean?
It's in a sold out location and it has easy access.
Okay.
I don't want easy access because easy access means that during my funeral, the casket only has to go a short period of time. I want my casket to like walk, all the way up the hill.
You want them to schlep your ass.
Exactly.
Just schlep my ass.
So I thought this was fascinating.
It's not something I've really spent a whole lot of time. I mean, maybe this conversation is the longest I've ever thought about it.
Well, that's the thing is that what would happen is that, me and the missus, we would talk about it and then I would call the cemetery and work directly with them. I didn't even know this secondary market existed.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the cemetery aftermarket, the afterlife aftermarket. There's one guy in LA who's just like the hustler and he's just like wheeling and dealing in second market.
You think there people are flipping cemetery plots?
I think people might start buying them up as investments because they are going to increase in value because the land can't grow.
Yeah.
So if you want to diversify your assets and you're already pretty diversified, but you don't own any sort of aftermarket Jewish cemetery plots, then how diversified are you really is what I'm asking you.
I wonder if there is a REIT that is specific to cemetery plots.
So you can buy in as like a fractional owner of like a
exactly
like a hedge fund of cemetery plots. Oh my God. And then you're going to sell off like derivatives based on the sort of aggregate funds. You're going to fucking short the market on cemetery plots. Didn't you see The Big Short? Adam McKay warned us. I mean, it was after the fact, so it wasn't a warning, but you know what I mean.
I might do it. It sounds like an interesting idea. At least next week I'll have a spreadsheet and we can go through the numbers.
I mean, there's probably payment plans available.
Oh, for sure.
They probably will work with you a lot on the payments. It's just such a weird fucking business. So weird.
So, Roy, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Let me just shake that fucking ghost off me real quick. Thanks. Go ahead.
I have to ask you, how high are you?
Josh, I'm high. This is full spectrum, maximum brightness weed.
Mm-hmm.
Like this weed goes to 11.
Well, I'm interested in smoking a little bit more so we can do the next thing.
Yeah, well, that's a huge surprise, Josh. I don't think I could have predicted that. I don't think the listeners could have predicted that. Let's see what happens, folks. We're going to take Moose and Lobsta out for a walk. When we come back, let's see how everything is.
Do you think that this is really top shelf weed? Like, could you tell while we were smoking if it was better than normal weed?
I mean, I'm not afraid to admit this is better than the weed I usually buy.
Really?
This is probably going to shock everyone who listens to the show. But, I'm more of like a price-motivated shopper. But yes, this does feel like top shelf flower joint.
I only like to smoke top shelf.
You are very posh.
Yeah. But I am feeling really good right now. I feel amazing.
Yeah, I have to tell you that this second smoke has a different sensation than the first one did.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know if it's the second wave that sort of hit the body or is it the first wave sort of moves into the body and the second wave hits in a different place, Mm-hmm. But it's a different kind of feeling right now than it was before. Before it was really, really bright. I thought coming back it would be like so bright you can't see kind of bright, but it's not. Mm-hmm. It's kind of turned down a little bit.
Yeah.
In my present experience.
Sure. No, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Also, just the joint itself smokes very nicely. It lights nicely. It burns evenly. There's no running. There's no canoeing.
Mm-hmm.
Well constructed. Comes in, one of these little white test tubey looking things, which is, not the most exciting way to like buy the joint because I like to be able to see the joint, but you don't usually get to see it. So such is life.
How do you want to buy it like that? They're all in like a necklace form where you see them kind of like sausages, like
necklace. And you can just like snip one off at a time as you need it.
Yeah, they're like streamers, kind of.
Yeah, that would be cool too. Good times, Moose and Lobster. So, speaking of good times, Josh.
Well, this is what I was thinking, Roy. Is you know that joke where it's like,
No.
what is this? What are we doing?
Time for a new segment. Hot takes.
Okay.
So this week we're kicking it off with the wide, wonderful world of Jewish desserts. I got 5 hot takes on Jewish desserts. You got 5 hot takes on Jewish desserts. Okay. All right. So where were we?
You're about to give me a hot take. My first hot take.
All right. Hot take 1. Raisins do a lot of lifting in Jewish desserts.
Totally agree. That's a good take.
They're everywhere. They show up in your kugel. They show up in your other things. They show up in your baked goods. They're carrying a lot of weight. Tiny little sweet things, doing their best. What's yours?
Too many Jewish desserts are just rolled things.
Oh my God.
They're just rolling it. It's just little joints. All of it is just little joints rolled up, either with nuts or fruits or whatever. It's all rolled.
Well, hell in a bucket, Josh. That is a hot take because it really ties into my number 2.
Number 2.
Rugelach are underrated. Yeah. I happen to love those little rolled up desserts with the spices and the nuts and the chocolate. That is amazing that you would zero in on the rolling like a bastard. Because we have a proud tradition of rolling things. We roll up Torah scrolls, we roll up rugelach, and we roll up joints. It's all part of the culture.
That's a good take. I think those black and white cookies you get at the Jewish deli are a little racist. I always felt uncomfortable eating one of those.
Why couldn't they be a swirl? They're very, very delineated.
It's very clear.
It's very as you would black and white. Hot take number 3. Par of ice cream is not ice cream. Now I imagine in the more Orthodox worlds, I haven't really hung out with a lot of more observant Jews of late, but I bet that it's a great time to be Orthodox and kosher observant because you got coconut milk ice cream and oat milk ice cream and cashew nut milk ice cream and all of these vegan delicious things, and it's not so much about we have to find a dairy-free alternative. It's an abundant time. So I guess my hot take gets me to my actual hot take. It must be a great time to be keeping kosher, particularly in the dessert realm.
That's a good take. Too many Jewish desserts are holiday specific. I wish that weren't so specific to certain holidays. We should expand the brand and not limit with Hamantashen or Sufganiyot. I want
so true.
Think big, guys.
Think bigger. I mean, Hamantashen all year long. That's my hashtag. All right. Jewish desserts do a lot for the hot dessert argument. Dessert is a very contentious issue, and some people really like cold desserts, and some people really like hot desserts. And, things like kugel, it's crazy. Why is it even good? But it is. Because of my earlier friend, the raisin.
That's true. In thinking of Jewish desserts, will oneg desserts survive in a post-COVID world? I don't think so. And it has me concerned.
Big plates of food out on things.
Yeah.
That's not how COVID spread.
But you know what? People just don't want to be touching lots of things with all the food laid out. That's the downside with the rugla is it's too small. You like it because it's finger size. It's I don't know, man.
I respect the stance, but I don't. I disagree with it entirely. Rugelach or nothing. The most underrated dessert in the Jewish cuisine is charoset. I love charoset. It only gets a little bit of Seder time, a little bit of the spotlight, but it has to fucking share it with horseradish, and it's always sharing the spotlight with matzah. But good charoset, my kids will just eat that shit out of a bowl with a spoon, and that's how good it is. And charoset, we should elevate the charoset visibility because it's a great, delicious gift we bring to the world.
Totally, man. Another holiday-specific food.
I know. I'm sorry. That's our culture is so holiday specific with the food. At least that's how we engage with it as modern American Jews, anyway.
Basically, we just need to eat more dessert, is what we're saying. My last hot take. We need a Jewish popsicle. And I am suggesting we choose something that looks like the double cherry bomb popsicle and sort of make it look like two Torah scrolls together and have a Torah molded popsicle. And that's what we need to complete our Jewish desserts.
Flavor?
Something like holy water.
I think you're crossing some signals right now, man. That brings up our next segment within a segment. That's not going to work, man.
What flavor would represent something almighty?
Man, I want to go with like honey. You know, like the thing that Pooh Bear treasures most.
I'm down with natural flavors, so honey or like fruits. You know, something that is of nature would be a good.
As opposed to like fucking Doritos Taco Blast.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, that completes our new segment, Hot Takes. Josh, we love brackets.
We do. Why is that?
I feel confident speaking on your behalf when I make that statement, we love brackets. That's how confident I am that you love brackets as much as I love brackets. Here's why. Brackets make order out of chaos. Of course, it is a highly fallible order, and it is a very wobbly order. And anybody who has played March Madness knows the delicacy of a bracket. But it makes sense out of things. It helps you organize things. And in this world where we're so overwhelmed with information and ideas and opinions and thoughts and options, like a bracket is very soothing. No?
Yeah, I think you make a lot of sense. That it does bring order to anything, really. So thinking of what a bracket needs numbers. Things have to be numbered. So you know what I did is I just went into my Google and I just typed in the number 10, and then it tells you what to do. It tells you the answer. The first thing that came up was 10 ways to smoke weed. That was like just the search. It just knew. I don't know.
Wow, the AI is getting sharp.
I clicked I'm feeling lucky. And the first thing that I saw was 10 ways to smoke or ingest weed ranked. And this is from Mashable. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you the rundown real quick, 1 through 10. And then what we did here is put them in a bracket.
And that's what we do.
So number 10, they have is the one hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9, tincture. 8, dapping. 7, the blunt. 6, the spliff. 5 is vapes. 4 is edible. 3 is joint. 2 is pipe. And number 1 is the bong. All right.
Let's get into it. There's nothing better than getting into a bracket.
In the first game, we would have blunt against the one hitter.
Ooh, shit!
Honestly, a better way to get high. That's what this is. This is exactly what I just want to make sure I know what we're doing here.
I mean, I guess, yeah. We should clarify terms. Boy, we should have done that before we got into the bracket. But I guess what's the better experience?
All right. I'm going to go with a one hitter.
Really? So how are we going to settle this? Interesting.
Because I think it's just more versatile into your use in society.
Oh, that's a good argument.
And those blunts do get a little wet towards the end.
I mean, you're right. I mean, the thing about a blunt is it just sort of what it represents. Like if you're smoking a blunt, you're smoking a blunt with your friends, probably smoking multiple blunts with your friends, which means you're all just like hanging out and like chilling. That represents that experience. But in terms of like the actual user experience, I think you're probably right. I think the one hitter, there's lots of variations on it. It can be a very cool piece. It can be a very throwaway piece. It can be very cheap. It can be expensive. It can be like all kinds of different materials, little tiny thing, throw it in your pocket, or it can be whatever. Like, it's the basic equipment of a stoner.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to have a one hitter.
Amen.
All right. I think one hitter wins.
I'm glad you finally came around.
I did.
In the other playing game here, we have number 8, dabbing, against 9, tincture.
When I was sort of experimenting with tinctures, it was many years ago, and the tincture itself was like this extremely spicy cinnamon flavor, real like cinnamon, like mixed in with the alcohol and then the THC. It was not a pleasant experience. It was a very burning experience. I could see why people use tincture, maybe more sort of medically, but I don't see any appeal to tinctures in my own experience.
I'm with you 100%. The tincture, it's just so limiting, like you're not going to like keep them in your car,
No, it's not like dabbing is like my first choice either.
Yeah, I guess I can't walk around with a dab.
Those tinctures, they're not as practical as this fucking blowtorch and 3 pieces of glass. Hey, I just brought out my dab stuff. You what? Like 3 hours later, like a fucking IKEA catalog. It's like, okay, I'm done. I've assembled the rig. Now I just have to light this fucking piece of glass to 1,000,000 degrees. All right, I'm going to fucking turn this up to 1,000,000 degrees. Here we go. Now I'm going to put this nug on it. Where'd it go? Oh, you inhaled it all and you're dead? Cool. So, like, I'm not a big fan of dabbing either. Like, oh, hey, remember when Roy was dead that one time? That was from the dabbing. So I'm a hard no on the dabbing. And I think just because of that realization, I'm going to fucking vote for tincture. Fuck yeah, Cinderella story. Tincture.
Well, you took me there, Roy. I'm with you 100%.
Fuck yeah. All right, tincture moves forward in the bracket. Now, tincture is set up against number 1, bong. And then the rest of the bracket is edible v vape and pipe v one hitter and joint v spliff. That's what the rest of the bracket looks like.
Let's get into it. So let's do the tincture and the 1 in the 8 game, the tincture and the bong.
Let's do it because this is going to be a quick game, right?
Bong.
What did the tincture say when it ran into round 2? Bong.
Oh, man. The bong is the best.
It's the number 1 seed in the whole tourney.
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing about a Cinderella story. It's a real fucking turn on for the first bracket. And then by the second bracket, like, how many Cinderellas are left and how many are just back to being pumpkins or however the story went. Pumpkin with no shoes. I don't remember. Anyway, bong it is.
The thing I like most about the bong is that every year it's sort of different. Like some years the bong can be like a real big bong, but other years it can be really slender. But, everyone has its advantages and they can be so beautiful.
Yeah, there's somebody I'm following on Twitter. She makes these beautiful bongs out of like vintage glass, vases and wine carafes and other kinds of old glass pieces. And then she converts them into bongs and they're quite lovely. So you should look for her on our thing because I retweet her shit all the time because it's good stuff. So bong it is.
Bong is moving on.
Bong moves forward to the next round. All right, so next we have edible v vape. This is like one of those games where you're like, fuck, anybody could win this. This is an anybody could win game.
Huh. This is tough for me. I'm leaning towards edible.
I mean, as a category, if you're going to pair up these two as categories, because these are pretty big categories,
Yeah.
You're leaning edible. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Edible is so broad. It encompasses so much, in terms of dosage, like sizing of stuff and flavors. I think it'll just be more interesting than vaping all the time.
Yeah. Also, I'm not a big fan of vaping just like as an art. I don't like looking around and just seeing people fucking pulling on their vapes all the time. It just stresses me out. Yeah. And then I know that there's the ones that are also the tobacco and nicotine ones or whatever. And they're just blowing all these crazy clouds of smoke out and shit. I am fortunate that I live in my own house and I don't have to worry about sort of being in an apartment or townhouse anymore or whatever, where you have shared walls and you're a little more worried about smoking in your own place. So you're probably vaping so you don't get in trouble. So it's convenient, but edibles are still better. It's still just better experience all around.
There's so many people driving around with those vape pens everywhere, and of course, some of them are using tobacco.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to think that people are just like getting high on the freeway.
It is unsurprising. Have you driven around anywhere anytime recently?
Yeah, no, it's everywhere. It's crazy.
So I think we're going to get to edibles.
All right. Edibles moves through.
Boom. Solid game, but edibles moves forward. All right. Our next matchup is pipe versus one hitter. All right. So this is sort of like two, similar conference kind of teams, right?
Yeah, they have a lot of similarities, but, sometimes size matters,
Pipe is where the size is.
I think so. I think a pipe can be packing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, would I rather have a one hitter or a pipe? I'd rather have a pipe. I mean, end of story. Would I rather smoke out of a one hitter or smoke out of a pipe? A pipe.
Right.
When you say pipe, what do you mean? Do you mean a steamroller or a Gandalf? Do you mean like a Sherlock? Do you mean like a bubbler? Like, what do you want?
I would grab one that had a very solid sort of like chamber, kind of like it's like a something to grab onto.
Some girth. That's what you're looking for.
Because it would be like a weapon, and it would be in my belt.
A big chunky piece of glass, yeah. Also something tough that when you drop it, it's not going to shatter. It's just going to kind of hit and roll.
Right.
One hitter did a great job coming out of round one, but this is it for one hitters. They're done with the tourney. Pipes are moving on. And our last bracket matchup for this round is joint versus spliff. Ooh, okay. I mean, the other thing about a bracket is that if this had been ordered in a different way, it would have created a different outcome. So much of the fate of the bracket is in the pairing of the bracket.
Well, don't blame us. Blame Mashable. I mean, they're the real criminals here.
Oh, I do. I blame Mashable 100%.
Yeah.
What if they had put like joint up against pipe or spliff up against tincture? Who knows if it would have shaken out the same way, pun kind of intended. All right. Joint v spliff. I mean, shit. I love a spliff. But like, if it's going to be down to like, what do I want more? Like, what would I rather live without or not live without? I would not live without joints.
Mm-hmm.
It's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
Spliffs are nice every so often, but like tobacco is really not meant to be used that way. It has other important medicinal and spiritual uses, but it's really not meant to be smoked like that. For me, it's joints.
Me too, man.
Joints moves on to face off with pipes. And then edibles moves on to face off with bong.
Dude, that's a good final four right there.
Ooh, that's a good final four. All right, let's take it from the top.
Bong v edible. I think, honestly, for me, it's the edible. It's just like,
yeah,
you have to inhale it or you have to, eat it, right? Those are basically what you're doing here.
Yeah, and then I think that if you're going to say like ways to smoke that are in sort of burning and inhaling flower, bong is not the end all be all. It's not the only way to do it. But edibles are a whole category. If they didn't exist, they weren't in the game, that would be a real loss.
Yeah, that's so interesting that Mashable gave edible the 4 seed, gave him the number 4 way. That's lazy.
Yeah, we're going to have to fucking get in touch with the editor who put this out and be like, hey, we have some issues with this bracket you created. Real serious issues. But right now, we're just going to play the bracket out. And then an edible v bong, edible takes it.
That sounds like an upset, but I'm with you 100%. Okay, bottom of the bracket here, we have pipe v joint.
What are you telling me? What is this bracket matchup called? Sophie's Choice? Is this the Sophie's Choice bracket matchup?
This is a tough
Are you
bracket.
kidding me? You're going to put up pipes against joints? That's like Game of Thrones sadistic.
This is harder than doing a real basketball bracket. I'm just telling you right
now. This is hard on my feelings. This is hard on my heart, Josh. My love for joints is well known, far and wide, across the multiverse, Josh.
Yeah.
People from like Xanathorpe 7 are like, wow, Roy, he really does love his joints, though, for real. That's true.
Yeah.
I heard that about Earth. So, for me, that's like, I mean, I love pipes. I also have many pipes and I love to collect them. And they're like, I love to like have them in a collection and use them all the time. So it's not a slam dunk for me.
If you had to, for the rest of your life, consume marijuana in one of those 2 ways, which way would you prefer?
Joints. Which would you prefer?
I think I would prefer pipes.
Uh-oh. We have a split decision.
I don't know, though.
It's going to have to go into overtime.
Because the pipes can break and that you're reliant on something else. You're using a crutch, but then again, joints use a crutch too.
This is a good analysis. Joints use paper, which means you need to have paper. You don't have to have a crutch, but you have to have paper.
So now it's really between pipes
and paper.
But just the idea of a pipe and an idea of paper.
The idea of smoking weed and never being able to smoke another joint again, but only being able to smoke it as flour packed in a bowl is a little bit of a bummer to me because I really do love joints, as I've mentioned a couple of times. And like to never have that, it does require you to have paper. And like, that's not such a huge lift. Papers are still like $1.25 at the gas station, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're not rapidly inflating goods. They're just little books of pieces of paper. You could grab a phone book and rip a piece of paper and roll a joint if you wanted. I wouldn't recommend it.
I think in overtime, for me, paper does win over pipes because I think paper is sort of more important.
It's more basic.
Exactly.
A pipe you can break, a pipe you can chip. Yeah, so all right. Next matchup.
The final. This is it.
Are we at edible versus joint?
Yes.
Holy schmoly.
This is an interesting final because I didn't think that we would end up with this final. I really didn't.
Edible versus joint?
Yeah, I thought the bong would be in there.
There were some upsets in the bracket, no doubt. I told you. It makes sense of chaos, but it has its weaknesses, as I said.
You know what? Only God knows.
You know, you sacrifice certain things when you try and pray at the altar of control. Fools.
So let's do it here. We have in the final game, edibles versus joints.
Edibles versus joints. This is like a battle of the titans.
Yeah.
You know, this is unleashing the Kraken. I mean, edibles is a whole category of all kinds of things. It could be all kinds of, you know, delicious foods in their own rights, but also really sort of dosable. So you could kind of use it in certain ways to be smart, but you could like eat it right before you go through security at the airport. And then when you get on the plane and then the plane starts to take off and it kicks in and then you're just kind of nice and high the whole flight. Like edibles do a lot of good stuff, man. Edibles do a lot of good stuff.
They do.
If I could only consume cannabis in one way for the rest of my life, it would be joints.
Yeah, I think so. I would not want to have to do edibles for the rest of my life.
I mean, the other thing about edibles is I actually, you know, I'm being positive about them, but the truth is I don't really use edibles all that much. I don't really like them that much because I got too much going on to be like eating edibles and then waiting like 2 hours for something to kick in and then waiting like 4 hours for it to not be kicking in anymore, you know? Like I don't have that kind of leisure in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really jamming on the edibles so much.
Empty calories, man.
Empty calories, exactly. The thing about edibles, too, is that, like, yeah, you're eating the yummy munchie before you're high. You're getting high by eating it, but you're not high when you're eating it. And then when you're high, you want something yummy to eat, and you already ate the edible.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
It's craziness. Just smoke a joint and then eat the edible afterwards.
Yeah.
You're welcome, America, and that one guy in Spain. So for me, it's joints.
All right. Joints it is. Joints are winner.
I love that joints won the bracket. That was a great bracket. Thanks, Mashable, even though we have some notes for you.
Well, you know what else I found? I discovered that there is a list of the 50 funniest Jewish jokes, and I thought we could pick one at random using our random number generator. What do you think?
Oh my god.
Energy up, Roy. Energy up.
Dude, that bracket took a lot out of me, man. That was a big high energy, like a really fun segment, but I'm all right. I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. Hold on.
This is a list from jewishcareintact.org. Sounds a fish. Hey, but you know what? We got to, give them a shout out on the pod. 50 best Jewish jokes. And the random number generator chose number 35. Are you ready for the joke?
So fucking eager to hear this joke.
A young scholar from New York was invited to become a rabbi in a small old community in Chicago. On his very first Shabbat, a hot debate erupted as to whether one should or should not stand during the reading of the Ten Commandments. The next day, the rabbi visited 98-year-old Mr. Katz in the nursing home. Mr. Katz, I'm asking you as the oldest member of the community, what is our synagogue's custom during the reading of the Ten Commandments? Why do you ask? Asked Mr. Katz. Yesterday we read the Ten Commandments. Some people stood, some people sat. The one standing started screaming at the one sitting, telling them to stand up. The one sitting started screaming at the one standing, telling them to sit down. That, said the old man, is our custom.
I want to report that to the authorities for some reason.
You don't like that joke?
No. To call it a joke puts a lot of expectation out there in the world. But what it did do was it sounded like a parable. I get it. The custom is arguing. Great. We should be so proud.
Mm-hmm.
Our custom as Jews is arguing.
Well, if you have a list of 50, you want to make sure arguing gets in there because that's a really specific kind of humor, an argumentative tone.
It is very true.
And you also want to get one of these rabbis sort of like...
I see the wisdom in it.
The structure may be important on the list.
Yeah, no, also this is the kind of joke I could hear a rabbi using in a sermon on a Saturday morning,
Yeah.
My grandfather told me about a man who, it's like, all right, I get it. You're just customizing it. I understand you got to write material all the time. Rabbis were like the original content creators, writing sermons all the time. I mean, that's only in the very recent past because of the way that it's sort of American Christianity sort of imprinted on American Judaism. It's a fascinating digression into sort of how Judaism adopted all the customs of Christianity of the time, including terms like pulpit and seminary and so forth.
Do you think a rabbi could make this joke into a sermon?
I think many have. That's what I think.
Honestly, me too, man. They're getting lazy.
Back in the day, if you were a rabbi, aside from schlepping all around town and tending to everybody's everything, you had to write your own shit every week, which means you had to be thinking all the time. And you had to keep old speeches if you had been around long enough to have old speeches. And maybe before the internet, before you could pull anything up from anywhere in the world in your fucking hand in 1 second, So do rabbis now scab more shit off the internet? Undoubtedly.
Do you think that there's a service that just, a subscription fee where they'll just sort of have content for you? You could just be super lazy and just cut and paste it?
Yeah, or just ends up being outsourced to the Philippines.
I bet there is that system, man.
Like a subscription sermon service?
Basically. I do think that they were swapping the sermons back in the day, though, because before the internet, each rabbi had to give their own sermon every week, right? But then no one person could hear two of them.
Right. So everybody else's sermons are worth a fortune to you and worth nothing to themselves. So it creates an incentive to share.
Yeah, it's exactly this year, I'm talking about these themes. You sort of listed them out. Here's what you wrote. I can sort of make it my own, but this is a great formula.
Yeah. What do you have for the reading for the week of September, whatever? It's I have this sermon about how it ties to this issue. That's cool. Another aftermarket in our people's world of markets.
I know. I wonder if they used to advertise on the same classified section.
That would be so awesome. It's hey, are you looking for sermons?
Well, if you're a rabbi, visit wonderingJewspodcast.com and click the green microphone and leave us a voice message telling us if you swap sermons.
Yeah, that would be rad.
Mom, let me know.
Tell us of your sermon swapping days. That is something I do wonder about.
All right. Well, I'm glad this joke exists, man. Thank you to the random number generator for doing something different.
Thanks, everybody, for everything.
Roy, I have to ask you, how high are you?
Josh, I am just so high. Just a lovely strain, a lovely experience.
Me too, man. I'm kind of going ups and downs. It hasn't been a constant high this time around. The first time was very consistent in feeling in that openness that you were describing. But this time it's much more wavy.
It's much more wavy. That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like it almost just literally my body just is moving back and forth like I'm at a fucking Jimmy Buffett concert. That's how I'm moving. just like swaying in the sunshine, sunset, sipping on a margarita or whatever the hell pina colada they're drinking in those things.
Yeah.
I do like pina coladas. I'm not going to lie. They're
I
delicious.
love pina coladas. Oh my God.
Fucking, they're like the most delicious drink.
I mean, they would go far in a bracket.
Pina colada would be a serious contender in any bracket.
Yeah. Blended beverages, for sure.
Blended beverages bracket. That's a future episode right there. I don't care that there's no weed we're talking about. I'll just fucking talk about blended beverages.
I'm glad this strain is making you feel so open to new ideas.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me ask you just a question, and that is, before we get into the end of the show, do you have any pro tips?
I have a parenting pro tip. How about you?
I also have a parenting pro tip. Bring it.
Pro tip.
My parenting pro tip is all about summer and trying to keep things going, even though things kind of get repetitive because, kids are home. And my pro tip is to spice it up and to try to do different things. And we recently went to Seattle, but we took the train. Just try to make things different, spicing things up keeps the kids honest, because they kind of get into ruts too. And you got to keep on their toes because, we don't know when the apocalypse is going to happen, and I want to keep them kind of ready, just in case, what if we have to get in the car, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically have fun with your kids, but really do it because you want to mentally prepare them for the unknown.
I actually don't have any problem with that. I think I should probably be doing more of that myself, but this pandemic has only, enabled me in my sort of staying at home ways. I'm a homebody. I like being at home and being around the house.
When the podcast is over, why don't you go downstairs and turn on the fire alarm? See how they do. Keep them on their toes.
Seems like that won't traumatize them at all. My parenting pro tip, Josh, is this. Know when the wave is cresting, Josh, and know when the wave is crashing. Because kids' energies, blood sugar levels, patience levels, attention spans, all of these things vary like the compounds in a cannabis plant, Josh. They vary wildly. And generally speaking, if you are at an event, let's say, like for example, a Renaissance fair with your kids the other weekend, and it was super muddy and the line was really long and the crowds were crazy, and things were starting to get unpleasant pretty quickly. Even though we had spent a fair amount of money on those tickets, we knew to cut our losses, try and find a win in the experience, and get out and salvage the rest of the day. Know when the wave is cresting and know when it is going to crash. Because if you are on that wave when it crashes, you are
fucked. That is a pro tip. I love that one.
Nothing but fire over here. Nothing but fire from Moose and Lobsta. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this strain, this dumb name strain. I've never seen a strain with a name this dumb. And at the same time, it brought so much game. This is what I mean. Strain names, what do they mean? Nothing. What does Moose and Lobsta mean? There must be a story. How did they pick it? What did it mean to them? And what happened to the origin strains? Collie, Snapple, and Oregon Huckleberry 2014. Because those names don't mean anything either. None of it means anything, Josh, and I'm not even a nihilist. That said, would you grow this?
I think I might. It's been a lot of fun. It's nice.
It's a really nice strain. I just don't know if it's the strain or the particular growers who grew this batch who are good growers and they happen to have good genetics and they're working with good plants, and how much that has to do with the parent strains and what the hell the Moose and Lobsta name means. It's all a mystery to me, but I would still be happy to grow this.
Well, I think we agree.
All right, so Moose and Lobsta wins the bracket. Joints win the bracket. A big day. We really answered a lot of big questions here on the show today.
I think this was really a summer blowout.
I mean, look, not all heroes wear capes. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't think this is a great strain for talking, though. I think it's a great strain for listening.
I I think it would be a great strain for a lot of things, like thinking and talking and tracking one another. It's not great for it, is what I'm saying, Josh. It's not great for it.
Oh my god.
What else would you do with this strain? This is like some heady strain.
Yeah.
Didn't the description talk about like a body high that sort of ripples through your body?
No, it was all there. I got the whole ride.
Now I've got what the kids call dry mouth.
Well, that's, you heard it here first, guys. This strain makes your mouth dry.
Okay, this is for the ASMR crowd. They're so weird, but I guess I kind of respect them in a weird way. 78, Moose and Lobsta, Deep Creek Farms. So crazy. What a fun ride.
A fun ride, Roy. Until next time, I'm Josh.
I'm still Roy. Keep
wondering.
wondering.